The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Kai and we are going to begin our webinar on scene creation in iClone 6 right now. So wherever you are in the world, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We're going to talk about scene creation today and how you can create scenes from scratch, both interior and exterior scenes. I'll give you some hints and tips on stuff like lighting, assembly, and all other sorts of cool things. But first of all, we're going to start with a quick PowerPoint just to go through some things for some of our trial users. We have a few trial users that are attending in this webinar, so just some informative stuff for you guys. For the trial users, there's a special on if you reply to our survey. If you fill in the survey that we will send out at the end of this webinar, we'll give you a 40% off upgrade to the full version of iClone. So make sure if you are a trial user, fill out that survey and you get like nearly half off your purchase of iClone. And we have lots of other cool stuff coming up in the end of this webinar as well. I'll be able to answer your questions, a short Q&A. We're going to, like I said, begin with a quick presentation, and we'll have a live demo that will take up the lion's share of our webinar time here. And then we'll have a 10-15 minute Q&A session at the end. And be sure to, as the webinar goes along, make sure you enter in, there's a questions panel in your GoToWebinar, a little question section, your GoToWebinar panel there. Make sure you fill in any questions you have in that question section, and I will get to those at the end of the webinar. All right, so let's get started on the product intro quickly. So we're going to run through this PowerPoint as quick as possible here. If you have any other questions on the product and everything, you can just simply email me, kai@reallusion.com, that's K-A-I, or you can just check out our forums, also forum.reallusion.com. All right, so let's get started. So I'm sure a lot of you already kind of have an idea what iClone is, but I just wanted to kind of reinforce that iClone is kind of like an all-in-one tool where you can talk about, where it basically gives you the ability to create virtual environments. Create your own story is one of the best things about iClone. It's easy for beginners and professionals for quality, versatility, flexibility, and it's getting even easier as we develop more and more tools, which I'll talk about later on. So key benefits, cinematic editing. We can do a lot of cinematic editing with iClone with the various tools, the various motion tools. It's an excellent tool for storytelling and quick production. And ultra realistic rendering thanks to our Indigo plugin, which we'll talk about further in the webinar. We also have character design. We are going to be, just a little teaser for you guys, we're going to be releasing our character creator. It's free to all iClone users. We're going to be launching that next week, I believe. August 31st is the tentative launch date that we have set for right now. And this is an amazing tool that will allow you to create your own characters. And we can talk more about that later on if you have any questions about it. Authentic animation. On the topic of animation, we are also developing new motion capture tools using inertial motion capture with the perception neuron suit. We can talk more about that later as well. And dynamic materials, we incorporate substance, logarithmic substance materials into our software, so you can use those in all the procedural animation stuff that comes with it. Physics simulation, we use NVIDIA's physics engine, which is a very awesome and reliable engine, and they're always upgrading it. It's NVIDIA's own engine, so you know you've got quality there. Expandable content, if you're not aware, we have a marketplace and a content store where you can purchase all sorts of different content, and we can take a look at that later as well. And here's a brief summary of all our different plugins. So iClone 6, what's new over iClone 5? We have ultra realistic rendering. You can see the difference there with the Indigo and the iClone renders. Some very exceptional rendering. There is also real-time surface smoothing, which allows you to smooth out the surface of a lot of your objects in your scene as well as characters. Tessellation, where you can extrude certain shapes and create textures using your graphics card. Create kind of shapes from flat surfaces using normal maps and all that fun stuff, displacement maps. And here's an example of the vector displacement. If you take a look at the skull on that guy's shoulder there, we have other tutorials on that on our YouTube channel. Excuse me, or you can even just contact me about that as well. object-oriented constraints. This has to do with physics, not really the topic of this webinar. The UI, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We have a UI tutorial you can check up on as well. The timeline, always fun. I just released a couple of timeline tutorials, which I recommend you check out. Just published those, I think, a few days ago. So if you want to learn more about the timeline, you can check that out as well. Content evolution. So we have morph-based enhanced facial topology, which has to do with the character creator, and speed tree as well. We may deal with speed tree. We will deal with speed tree actually in this webinar. I think we'll have time for that. And enhanced level of detail. This is all stuff that we can talk about later on. We'll handle this PowerPoint. We'll send out this PowerPoint later on. You can go through it on your own time. So if I'm going too fast for you, feel free to ask questions later on. So a lot of people, I want to focus on this though. A lot of people use iClone from anywhere from movie makers, independent movie makers, to businesses. They use it for corporate training. We have teachers using iClone everywhere in the world. A huge educational following for iClone around the world. People using it for web media, content development, also game making, which is not on here. We have a lot of indie game developers that have emerged in the last few years as well. In addition to video production, where you can do chroma keying and everything like that. You can actually check out our featured developer page or our featured stories page. If you just Google featured stories iClone, you should be able to find this page, and it comes up with a lot of different stories. I won't go through too much detail on these guys, but Andrew Peisker from Germany, Realm Pictures from UK, these guys just did a really cool video that was really popular recently. It was a first-person chat roulette. They did that, and it has something like 3 or 4 million views, I think, on YouTube. So if you wanted to, see something cool they did recently, just the last month here, just Google chat roulette first person, like a first person shooter. I can talk more about that later if you're interested. This is Miles Sorensen, and one of our own, James Martin, did the animation for this this movie. This is on IMDb, a 7.7 rating, so very good result for that. And one of our best users, one of our highest quality users, Adolphe Navarro, he created the Zurban Club, basically a graphic novel, and you can take a look at our featured stories for that. John Gress uses it for his video game production, and he is a professor as well. In addition to John Weinbrenn at the National Film and Television School in the UK, they're using iClone for game animation and game production. Bohan Berbora, he won the Unity Award in 2014 for his work with iClone and Unity. And a lot of people like us. You can see a lot of labels there. We have people like Jesse Griffith from Jimmy Kimmel Live using iClone and Crazy Talk all the time. A lot of different reviews. So the product family, if you want to learn more about this, we have an edition comparison website page on our website. Check that out for what you can do with iClone Pro, what you can do with iClone Standard. And we now have 3D Exchange 6. So 3D Exchange 6 has already been released, and that includes characters, animations, and props. And you can import and export those from any of your software that you're using: Maya, Max, Unity, Unreal 4, Unreal Engine 4, and Google SketchUp, which we'll talk about in this webinar. Indigo Render plugin, I've already mentioned that. Additional content, we have tons of additional content. Visit our content store, please check it out, and really enhance your production with all the cool stuff that we have. And we have iContent pricing, which is cheaper than any other marketplace, but it's only for use within iClone, however. But if you're focusing on iClone, you can get a lot of cheaper content in the iClone content store and marketplace when compared to other marketplaces. So we have the special effects. We're going to be using this Botanical World content pack in this webinar as well. Tons of trees, more trees than you'll ever need. And I know we have a lot of DAZ users that are recently migrating to iClone for character creation and stuff. They'll be fairly impressed with our character creator, and we also sell a lot of DAZ content in our marketplace as well. And industry-leading content providers, game producers such as Dexsoft Games, Sinister Games, all sorts of stuff. So that's it for our PowerPoint there. If you have any questions, I know I went really fast there, but didn't want to focus too much time on that. Here's a little summary of our live demo. We're going to be talking about an indoor scene first. So I'm going to be creating an indoor scene. I'm going to be showing you how to assemble the basics of your scene, prop alignment and movement. We're going to be importing stuff from 3D Exchange. And then we're going to be focusing on assigning materials and lighting, which are two super important things to making your scene look visually appealing. So that's lighting and material assignment. And then we'll be looking at a little exterior scene action here. I'll be using doing some gardening with SpeedTree and using our sky tool and showing you guys how to work with water as well. So that is basically it for our PowerPoint. Thank you guys for persisting through that PowerPoint here. Let's go directly into iClone and take a look at the scene that we are going to create. So we're going to do our live demo now, and then we'll move into our Q&A session at the end. So again, if you have any questions about what I'm doing here, make sure you put those in the questions section of the panel there, and we'll get to you later on that. So you can see we have this beautiful scene here. We have reflections off the windows. We have some really nice, intimate lighting in our scene. We have this vase on a shelf here, which we're going to be importing from Google 3D Warehouse. A nice semi-transparent glass table, and just a very intimate looking scene. We even have this angry looking lion dude up here as well, and this bust of a lion. So we're going to be recreating this from scratch. So in order to recreate it from scratch, we need to start from scratch with a new project. So let's just open up a new project. Now, if you want to start your project, let's just press Control G here to turn on our grid. If you want to start our project with a different ratio on your screen, first look at different size of screen, you can actually just go up to Render and select Render Image or Render Video, it doesn't really matter, and that'll bring up your render panel over here if you don't already have it up. And you can change your output size. Go to frame size on the right here, and for some people who like to have a little bit of a different aspect ratio, you can go to frame size custom and go to something like 720p, which is a fairly nice one to start from. So if you want to work at 720, you get a wider lens view. You can start like this. I like to just work from this, or else the default. They're both okay. But let's get started by creating the stuff in our scene. So what I want to do is go into my Content tab, where all the content is, and on the top we have this Set tab, and in Set we have a Props folder. And if I double click on that, by the way, on the right hand side here, if I click in here and I double click my 3D blocks, we have like separate folders here. We have this wall and floor folder, for example, which is what I'm going to use here. But if I want to have the items look a little bit different in my content manager, what I can do is I can just press Control 1, Control 1, Control 1, and that will allow me to get a different view in my content manager. So sometimes you have so many items, if I go to my props base here, I can just pan this over a little bit and expand my content window a little bit. So the first Control 1, the first visual setting is good for this because there's so many items in the content manager here. You wouldn't want to have this like this, for example. It would be really difficult to navigate through. There's just so many different items here. So what I'm going to do is just press Control 1. I'll just go back to the smaller one here. And we're just going to go to 3D blocks like I had before, wall and floor. And now is where you'd want to expand it so you can see the actual items that you're adding to your scene. So let's go ahead and add a wall and some floors, or sorry, a floor and some walls. We can have two floors. Let's go ahead and add a floor first. So we have this floor 001. I'm just going to double click that, add it to our scene. So there we have your basic floor. Now to navigate around your scene really quickly, for those of you who are really new and want some basic tips, just hold down your Alt key and always have the Alt key down pretty much. If you hold Alt and left mouse button, you can pan around like this. If you hold your Alt key and right mouse button, you can orbit around whatever object you have selected. And if you have the Alt key held down and both mouse buttons, you can zoom in and out like that. That's your basic camera navigation, and that's really all you need to know to move around your iClone scene. So let's add this floor. We already added the floor into our scene. Let's go ahead and add a wall. So we have this wall 004 at the bottom here. I'm going to just double click that wall, add it to my scene, and you can see it appear right there. Now, when you're assembling stuff, especially an interior scene, it's really a good idea to have a snap to model setting enabled. So let's press Control P, and that brings up our preferences here. In our preferences, you can see we have this snap to model. You can also press Control M for a hotkey. And if I have this snap to model, Say, for example, I want to place this wall directly along the edge of my floor. Now, if I didn't have snap to model, it would be difficult to do that. I'd have to spend, a bunch of time kind of aligning things up. But if I have snap to model on, I can just move it over here and it'll just snap into place like that. You can see it just snap right there. So snap just like that, which is cool. I mean, we've snapped it to model, and that's really all we need to do. I also like to have angle snap on in these kind of scenarios. And if we have 45 degrees angle snap on, say I want to rotate this. So I'm going to show you a really cool way to actually make a copy of an object first. You can just hold the control key and click and drag, and that'll create another copy of it. You can see now we have two walls. Now if I want to rotate this to an exact 90-degree angle, what I could do is I could go to my modify panel, and down here I could rotate it along the blue z-axis, let's say 90 degrees. We can type in 90 right there, and it'll just rotate it exactly 90 degrees. Or I can press the E hotkey, and I can rotate it like this. And you can see now we're snapping every 45 degrees. So 225, 270, 315, and back to 0. So that's really cool for having angle snap on. Really useful just to get everything aligned perfectly, saves a ton of time. And then we have snap to model, so we can just snap it right there to the edge of our wall. And here's our basic scene. Our floor might be a little bit large. Now, if we want to change the size of the floor, I can just select the floor itself. Now you can see if I press the R hotkey to use my scale gizmo, and I scale it smaller, it's going to go smaller like this. Another way you can scale that, if I press Control Z and undo that, another way I can scale, if I want to scale from this top corner, I can make sure that my pivot point, which is this little gizmo here, is at that top corner. And to do that, I can make sure it's selected, go over to the pivot point section here, and you can select, I think it's this one, it's front maybe. You have to kind of randomly pick these ones because it depends on which item you have. There we go. So we have this pivot point over here, and then if I press the R hotkey, I can scale it and it'll scale from that corner. So that's kind of a useful little tip. And you can scale it along this red axis there as well. And everything's fine and good in the world. Let's make it a little bit larger, maybe something like that'll do. And then we can just return it back to the middle if we want. And there's our pivot point there now. Another thing that I like to do, especially when I'm assembling a scene, is I like to change the camera settings. So to edit your camera settings, you can just press the U hotkey. U will toggle between your last selected object over here and your camera settings. So U goes to your camera settings. Right now we just have a preview camera. And if I press U again, it'll go back to my last selected object. And these are all the modify settings in that. So let's go to U again, into our camera settings. And if we zoom in a little bit closer, let's say, for example, like we wanted a view of like this large or this kind of view right here, we can actually just change our focal length to something like 35 millimeter. And that gives us a wider angle lens, and it allows the room to kind of expand a little bit. It makes the room seem a little bit larger. So if you're creating an interior, it's often a useful tip to use a larger, rather a smaller in this case, focal length, but a wider lens angle. So you get it like a more spacious appearance like this. So let's create ourselves a roof as well, because we're going to have a roof later. Now we can make this floor a roof just by simply clicking it, holding Control and clicking and dragging it up, and it'll snap to the top right there. So now we have our roof. However, at this point, we don't want our roof to be visible. So there's a couple of different ways we can make it invisible. We can go up here and use this eye tool, visible, invisible, right there. Or we can go down here and we have this display. We can change it from visible to invisible here. And you can also change your shadow settings and render state, which we'll talk about later if we have time. But let's make it invisible for now. All right, so now we have our basic scene. And what I want to do is I want to add some stuff into the scene. We need some, a sofa and everything in the scene. Now the sofa I'm going to be using, you can find in your 3D scenes right here. If we go to 3D scenes, there's this lounge project right here. You can load this, and there's a bunch of sofas in there. We're going to be using that. You can also find them if you go to projects, and I think default projects, maybe not, maybe the scene one, yeah. You go to projects and you go to scene. Everyone has this in iClone, so you just go to lounge right here, and you can save out those different props. So let's go ahead, and I have them already saved. If I go to my set tab over here and I go to the custom props, these are where I have them already saved. I believe I saved them as something sofa stuff. Yeah, here we go. So I basically saved everything as sofa stuff. Let's click and drag this sofa stuff into my scene. And now we have this whole, sofa layout right here. And let's just press Control M to turn off the snap to model now, because we don't really need that anymore. What I want to do is go into my scene manager right here now, and you can see I have this table. But notice there's a little arrow beside it. If I twirl that arrow down, we have a whole bunch of sub props as part of this big table prop. Now what I want to do is I want to delete the sofa on the left, so I'm going to select that sofa. It's not that one, not that one. Sofa with the one in parentheses here, and just go ahead and delete it. And that's how we delete sub props. And then I can select this beanbag. It's kind of a nasty looking beanbag. We'll just delete that. And now we have this simple setup here with two sofas and a nice table. If we want to move the entire thing, we can select the parent prop and move it around like this. We no longer have snap to model selected, so let's just move it somewhere like this. I think that should be fine. And if we want these sofas to be separate, we can move them separately. We can select the sofa by itself and move it separately as well. I'll just Control Z and undo that. All right, so that's kind of how you can attach things to each other. If you want to detach them, you can just select your sofa, go over here to your attach section. You can also use the I hotkey and just select detach. And when you do that, detach, it'll now be its own separate prop. And we can reattach it by selecting pick parent and then picking the table again. And now we're back as part of the table. So it's a cool way you can attach and detach stuff, manipulate it. So let's get into some nitty-gritty stuff. Let's bring a character into our scene. I'm going to just bring a G6 character from our G6 Power Pack here. This is one from our developer Celigon. And you can find this in the marketplace and or content store. And what I'm going to do is just have this character sit on the table. We'll apply an animation to her. If I zoom in really quickly here, let's apply an animation. The G6 motion for Heidi, perform, and we have a perform motion. That's up in here in the motion tab, by the way, called sit and talk. We just double click that. And I think, we can just choose any position on the timeline that looks good. Something like this will be good. And then we can just simply right click on the character, remove object animation, and then she will stay at that position throughout the entire timeline. All right, so let's just go ahead and have her sit down over here at frame 1. Sit somewhere comfortably on the sofa. And don't worry about her dress right now. That's just all physics being all fiddle-faddle-foo on us. All right, so we have our character. Now, what I want to do now is I want to apply some materials to my scene. Now, the materials I'm going to be using are called substances from Allegorithmic's Substance Designer. And iClone has a couple of those embedded. You can find them by going up to your Media tab here. And we have this Substance folder. And we also have this Substance Power Pack 200, which you can purchase from the content store. I'm just going to be using this Substance one for now, though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply one of these substances to our wall. I'm going to be using this brick wall one here. We're going to make it look a little bit avant-garde, like a little bit hipster or something. Just click and drag it directly on to the section right there, the wall section. And we have our brick. But say we think the brick is a little bit too large. We want it to tile it a little bit stronger, a little bit more. What we can do is with the object selected, so with our wall selected, we can go over here and down in materials, you can see we have all the different texture channels here, diffuse, bump, and specular. They all have this little flame in the bottom left there, which indicates they are substance textures using a substance graph. Now, if you want to tile these a little bit more, there's a couple things you can do. One way you can tile them is you can use the tiling in iClone, which is down here in the UV settings. And make sure you select Affect All Channels, because we want all these channels to be tiled the same way. Okay, and then you can just select tiling on the U, maybe something like 3, press enter, and you can see it change right there. And then you can tile it on the V, 3 as well. And there, I think that looks a little bit better than it did before. And that's really how easy it is to do all that stuff. Not too difficult. You can just tile it simply like that. However, you can also go here to down to your substance materials, and if we wanted to, bring these back up to like 1, for example, in iClone, we can actually use the actual substance by itself, increase the amount of bricks on the x-axis, increase the amount of bricks on the y-axis, and so on and so forth. But let's go ahead and just, let's just keep this at, I don't even know what the original was. I'll have to Control Z that. I'll just go back to something there. And then you can also change the output size here as well. So take a look at the texture. Right now the output size is only 512 by 512. You can increase that to like 1024, and you can see the detail changes quite significantly. So we get much better detail if we change the output size on our substance. We can even change it to 2048. It'll be maybe a little bit too detailed there. But keep in mind that when you change the output size of your substances, you're going to get a little bit more drag on system resources. So if you're using a slower computer, it's going to create a drag on those resources. So let's go ahead and just, I don't know, let's use the substance here. I'll create, maybe more bricks on the y-axis there. I think something like that looks fine and dandy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select this wall and delete it because I've just messed up all the substance stuff. I can just click and drag, hold Control, click and drag, and create another copy that's exactly the same with the same substance. And then I still have angle snap on, so snap it twice, and then we need to Control M, snap to model. Sometimes Control M doesn't really respond on my computer, so we make sure we have snap to model on there, and then we can snap it. There we go, snap it into place right there. All right, so there we have our walls, and we can maybe tile this a little bit more. I think I want the tiling to be a bit smaller, so we can combine those two by just going tiling 2, tiling 2. There we go. I like the smaller bricks for some reason. It's tiling 2, tiling 2. All right, so we got 2 brick walls all set up. Let's take a look at the floor now. So for the floor, I'm actually going to go into our Substance Power 200 pack. It's a very powerful name. And let's go into the wood folder down here. Now for the wood folder, we have a bunch of different woods that we can use for hardwood floors. So whether you're a fan of light hardwood floor or dark hardwood floor, you can simply click and drag these onto your floor right here. There's this Macquarie one. These are all fairly. Obviously, the resolution is fairly high, so we'd probably want to try something, modify the UV textures a little bit later. I think there's one that looks kind of okay here. Let's try a lighter one, actually. I'm going to go for the lighter one this time. Something like red cedar. Maybe one of the earlier ones. All right, that one looks fine and dandy for me. Now what I'm going to do is, instead of using this one piece of hardwood floor, because it's really impossible to find a single piece of hardwood floor to fit your entire floor. If we want to create multiple tiles of hardwood floor, we can do that quite easily. Let's actually just rotate this around by using the E hotkey again, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the R hotkey, and we're going to scale it to the size of like one tile, something like that, like one piece of hardwood panel, like that. If you have wide plank hardwood, you might have something like that. And you can see we get the nice texture there. Let's just press the W hotkey and snap it to the corner here. All right, so we have that snapped. Now, what's the easiest way to fill this entire floor with hardwood tiles? Well, that would be to use the multiple duplicate tool. And multiple duplicate tool is up in, let's see here, edit, multiple duplicate somewhere. There we go. I always use Control K, which is the hotkey there. Edit in multiple duplicate. So when you do that, it'll create multiple duplicates of your tile there, and you can see that you can increase or decrease the amount of duplicates. You can increase or decrease the spatial offset. So if you want to increase that, you can see the results there. We'd probably want to keep that at 1 in this case, since we don't want any gaps in between our tiles. Maybe give ourselves another tile there. So just type in 11 in the number of duplicates. And there we have our nice, duplicate tiles. And you can see the lines between the duplicates. And then we just go ahead and press OK. So now we have these, tiles instead of this hardwood floor. Or if we just want to press Control Z, we can undo that, and let's take a look closer at the materials on this tile. Let's choose a higher output size, something like 1024, and then for our V mapping, we might want to use something like 0.5. There we go, just so we can actually see the grains a little bit better. Maybe 0.25. There we go. Now we can actually see the grains in the hardwood floor. And then if we just press Control K, multiple duplicate, then we will have tiles filling up our entire floor. Doesn't look much different, except that the tiling is a little bit better. And then we can press OK. All right, that's enough work on our hardwood floors. Let's go ahead and focus on the sofas now. Sofas should be quite easy. Need to get a move on here. So materials, let's just go to our substance channel, our substance folder. And there's some fabric stuff going on here. I'm going to just click and drag one of these fabric materials to our sofa. You can see it creates a nice fabric. Now this one you'll be able to see the difference quite significantly when I change the resolution. We need to make sure that we use this picker tool, select the right material there. Again, you can just use this picker tool or the B hotkey and pick any material on your object and it'll be selected. So then we can go down here, output size, change that to 1024, and you can see we get a much nicer result there. We can even change that to 2048, and it's even more refined. So let's just leave it at 1024, and there's all sorts of different values you can change. The pattern angle, so we can have random pattern angles. The crease intensity, you can increase or decrease that, increase frequency. Yada yada. There's all sorts of different stuff. We're not going to worry too much about that. Let's just apply the same thing to the other sofa down here. And again, we need to just change that to output size 1024 by 1024. Cool. So we have these cool, some sort of canvas looking sofas. Now let's take a closer look at these pillows here. If I select this pillow here and I go down to the scene manager and I go into my sofa, where is the sofa here? There we go. And we can see this pillow. I think we're in the right sofa. Nope, wrong sofa. You can see the yellow selection box there. There we go. Let's select this sofa here. Now for this sofa, you can see it's a little bit, there's a little bit of weird angling on the edges of it and stuff. What I can do is I can just go here, and at the very back of this column here, the original, our condition column, we have original, and if we change that, we have real-time surface smoothing. So I can just select real-time smooth, and you can see the difference right there. It kind of poofs it out a little bit, and we get a much smoother result. Now your results may vary on that, but you can go ahead and see that, and you can modify the you can change it to wireframe mode by going here and selecting wireframe, and you can see the difference in the geometry right there if I turn that on and off. But if you don't want to, if you're not in rendering mode, you're creating a scene, I'd recommend keeping things low resource, so you don't need to use that too much. All right, so I think we're done with all our materials. Let's go ahead and add a couple things into our scene, like a shelf. So I'm going to go to my content tab. We're just going to go to props, regular props here. I'm going to try and zoom through this next part here. 3D blocks. Let's just give ourselves a basic box 001. I like to use the box 001. We're going to create a shelf. So just press the R hotkey, scale her down right here. You scale it this way. We need a shelf to put our Chinese vase on. So we can just create our shelf right here. Press the W hotkey and move it up over here. And maybe center it between these two windows. And scale it down. There we go, so there's our shelf. And let's apply a quick substance material to that. We can just go to substance, power 200, some type of stone. We can use granite. I think the granite one looks, I don't know. Maybe this marble 01. There we go, looks like a bit of a better shelf. And then change the output size. Okay, we're just going to use that. We're just going to go with that for our shelves. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into 3D Warehouse, 3dwarehouse.sketchup.com if you want to follow along. And I'm going to enter in Chinese vase. And we're going to search for a Chinese vase or vase, depending on which country you're from. And you can select any one of these Chinese vases right here. I'll just choose this one, this Chinese vase by Product Connect. Looks very similar to this one, surprisingly similar, suspiciously similar. But we'll just select that one, and you can preview it by going up here, and you take a little preview once Google SketchUp loads up. There's our cool looking vase. So we're going to download that, download it in SketchUp 8 format, that's fine. And you can see it's sure.skp, it's downloading right there. Once that's finished, what I'll do is show it in the folder. You can see sure.skp, and I can click and drag it into, iClone, not iClone, 3D Exchange. 3D Exchange is the conversion software that allows you to convert any format from SKP, OBJ, SKP, and FBX into iClone format. So let's go ahead and smooth this out a little bit. Let's just take both mesh groups here and go down a little bit, and where are we here? There we go. Need to go up here to our normal section and auto smooth. Make sure you have weld vertex selected and select auto smooth, and that'll smooth out our vase, and then we get our nice, Chinese vase. And that's really all we need to do. Let's go ahead and export that. So we need to go up to export here, Control E to iClone format, and we can save it to our we just call this awesome Chinese vase. There we go. We can save it to our default folder, which is our default iClone custom content folder. So that's okay, that's fine. And let's just press OK. Successfully exported. All right, cool, let's close it down. And let's go into our custom props here. So our props, custom tab, and there you can see awesome Chinese vase. Really quick, let's bring it in. And you can see it pops up right there. Now, notice that our pivot point is a little bit off, which will often happen when you're importing stuff from Google SketchUp. So let's go ahead and down to our pivots here, our properties, down to the pivots that I mentioned before. And we can just go ahead and quick set to the middle or to the base of our prop right there. That's fine. All right, so cool. And if we press the R hotkey now, we can scale it from the base, scale it down to something a little bit smaller, and we can neatly place it on top of our shelf. So in a couple minutes, we've just, imported this beautiful vase into SketchUp, and there we go. Let's place it nicely on the shelf somewhere. Good stuff. Okay, I'll scale it down a little bit as well. And if you want to make it a bit shinier, you can also go into your materials up here, go into your specular values, and you can see you can make it a little bit shinier with the glossiness and the specular values. If you have more questions about that, you can feel free to ask me. Change the ambient color as well to something a little bit darker up here. You can see that specular a little bit better. We'll be able to see that better when we have some better lighting in the scene, which is what we're going to talk about right now. Surprise, surprise. So we're going to talk about lighting next. We have pretty much everything we want to add into our scene. We can maybe even go and add that lion's head in it as well. Go to templates. That lion's head can be found in the, I think it's in displacement props, tessellation props. There we go. This comes with iClone 6. We have this relief lion. You can click and drag it, add it to your scene, and I'll just, because we had it in the demo, we can, or in the beginning, I can just stick it onto my wall right there. There we go. Looks a little bit strange on the bricks maybe, but okay, fine and dandy. All right, so now every iClone scene, speaking of lighting, every iClone scene comes with 2 lights. So we can go to our scene tab here. Let's just minimize all the props here by twirling this up. And let's go to lights. We have a key light and a rim light. You can use the / key to rotate any light you want in your scene. So I can, rotate it. Oh, we still have angle snap on. Let's go and turn angle snap off right now. You can also press Control E. And I'll use the / key. Now we'll get a smoother result right there. So you can see we can rotate the light by holding the / key again and rotating this way. And if this is going a little bit too fast for you guys, we will have it recorded, and we'll send you the link as well so you can review it later on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off both these lights by clicking this activate and activate. And now we have absolutely no lights in our scene. And what I'm going to do is go to my content tab here, and we have some light tools somewhere. LMNOP, there we go, light tools. And I'm going to add a couple of light tools into my scene. Let's just go ahead and add a floor lamp in first. These are basically embedded lights that come with iClone 6. If I press my W hotkey, I can bring up my movement gizmo and just kind of move it over by the window here. We forgot to put windows in as well, which I'll do in just a moment really quickly. And I like to use this pendant lamp, this one down here. This is a really good lamp for lighting up the scene from above. So we can take this pendant lamp and we get this, creepy looking demonic scene right now. Let's just go ahead, bring it up. And if we have our roof, enabled, if we go to our scene, and our roof should be, oh man, we have too many floors now. Okay, I think it's this floor 001. Let's make this visible. Oh, no, it should be something that's invisible. There we go. Okay, we made it visible. We have to go up here and select visible. So let's leave that where it is. Let's take our pendant lamp and bring it up so it's connected to the roof. There we go. Okay, so there's our cool, romantic scene lighting. I'm going to go and add some windows really quickly, and I'll show you some reflection on the windows as well. Those are all in the displacement building pack, Greco-Roman, I believe, the folder, and in the wall folder. Yeah, they're in the wall folder even though they're windows. So this is a displacement building pack that we sell on our content store as well. Let's just create ourselves a couple of quick windows. Bring this in, and I'm going to just align it to the wall here. There we go, and scale it using the R hotkey again. Scale it a bit smaller. Okay, we're not going to be too picky because we're running a little short on time here, and I think that's fine. So we have our window in place. Let's select our window. Let's go to materials right here, and in materials we can just choose this glass, or we can use our picker tool again and pick the glass. And you can see this glass and everything right here. This glass object is selected in the material names. And then we can go down to, there's a reflection option. Boom, we can hit reflection, and now we have this cool looking reflection. We can reflect everything in our scene, which is really cool. That's for, makes for really realistic results. Let's just control, click and drag and copy, make another window with reflection. And then let's control, click and drag again, make a third window. And we can rotate this window 90 degrees, I believe. Whoops, on the Z-axis. Yeah, let's just type in 90 there. And place that in the respective window section over there. And then control, click and drag, and create another window. All right, so that's as good as we're gonna get for windows. You can see we get the nice reflections. Now keep in mind as well that reflections may lag your system as well. If you have a slower system, reflections may do that. So just keep that in mind as well. So let's take a look now at the finer points of lighting. So we have our basic scene lighting. This is a scene only lit from 2 separate lights right here. Let's take a look at how we can, improve the looks of this lighting. Now notice that this line over here doesn't really have any shadows on it. If we take this pendant light, when we move it over somewhere beside the line, like over here, you can see that it's reflecting shadows on the lion, or it's reflecting light on the lion, but there's no shadows. Then what we need to do is go into Control P, our preferences again, and down here in our real-time render options, we have tessellation shadow selected, so it should create a shadow. Maybe there's just the light is too strong somewhere else. Okay, we get a little bit of a shadow going on there. I think this light is just too much of a spotlight. That's another good point to remember, to keep in mind. If we take this light and bring it back to where it originally was, somewhere over here, if we use a spotlight, if we add a spotlight into our scene, the spotlights and point lights are different. So if we create a light and we create a spotlight and we shine the spotlight, let's actually take our pendant lamp down right now, the light on our pendant lamp. And if we take this spotlight right here and we go over here and kind of rotate this spotlight this way, there you can see now we have the shadow on the lion right there. Now, spotlight and point light are a little bit different. Point lights will not cast shadows, whereas spotlights will cast shadows. So I believe the pendant lamp has a point light. So it's for creating like a nice ambient lighting. So let's delete our spotlight right here and let's pump up our pendant lamp again. And if we actually go into our pendant lamp, let's just bring it up a little bit here. If we actually go into our pendant lamp right here, we'll see that, yeah, we have a point light and a spotlight, but the spotlight I think is pointing directly downwards. But the point light is what's casting light, left and right. So point lights will not create shadows, so just keep that in mind. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about, guys, for this scene, go to your visual tab here, and in your shadow and our atmosphere section on the top, we can choose ambient occlusion. So what ambient occlusion will do, if I select that, it won't do much at first, but notice if I increase the strength, increase the range, and increase the distance, we get a little bit more of an effect right here. Especially if I go around the sofa area, closer up, we can see that we have a little bit more of shadowing around the props and everything, and it creates a much nicer looking ambience in our scene when we have a bit more of this shadowing around objects. You may have to, in certain situations, you may have to keep that toned down a little bit, but you can also tone it up in certain situations as well. And in addition to that, we can also go down here to our shadows. Right now, our shadow opacity is only at 75. We can increase that shadow opacity or decrease it, and you can see the results right there, especially on the table. So the spotlight is pointing down on the table here. We can change the soft shadow performance from quality to quantity. It's not going to make much of an effect in this scene. But yeah, that's basically your indoor scene. Now, for your outdoor scene, I'm going to create a really quick one in like 5 minutes here. Again, sorry for the little behind on the time here, but that's your indoor scene. Let's go ahead and start an outdoor scene now. So I'm going to go ahead and new. And just to show you guys how water works, because I know we had people questioning about water. So the main focus of this is going to be on water. Let's just go to our 3D scenes here. Height maps, height map large, we can add in one of these. Or we can just actually go to our props, and we have these terrains of the world. This is a content pack right here. And nope. The terrains of the world are in 3D scene as well. All right, let's just add a one of these 3D map larges in here. Let's just add this hill one right here. So these come embedded with iClone. So these are like your huge, massive, 3D height maps. And if you want to add water into your scene, let's just focus on water right now. Let's go to the props, and under props we have water. Let's just bring that up. And water, you can just apply any one of these waters to your scene. Now, there's different types of water. I just recommend using these ones that are included in the main folder here. I like to use this deep flow water. You just simply double click that, it'll add to your scene, and it has a video for your bump map. So if I press play, you can see we get some nice water flowing through our scene right here. All right, and what I want to do is actually just stop this for now and go to our scene tab here. And in our terrain, we have just water and we have a sky as well. I'm going to take that sky and delete it. So now we have nothing for the water to reflect off of. But I'm going to go ahead and add our sky tool by going to content, props, and within our props we have the sky tool right here. Just double click that, add it to your scene, and that creates a much more realistic sky. You can change this from daytime to nighttime simply by clicking and dragging the sun. Again, any more questions about the sky tool, you can feel free to ask me later. We're getting a little short on time here. So I'm just going to add that sky tool, and I'm going to add a few trees to my scene here as well by going to our props. Rather, we're going to twirl up the props here, going to our set tab, going to trees, and I have that pack that I mentioned before with all the different trees, the botanical pack. I forget the exact name of the pack here, but we have all sorts of different trees. If you go just to trees, for example, these are the default trees that come with iClone, these Alaskan cedars. You can click and drag those into your scene, just like that. So now we have this one Alaskan cedar. Let's maybe give ourselves a little bit more sunlight here. There we go. And if we go to our scene tab, I want to turn off the other lights. I don't want to have our light 01 in the scene. I just want the sky tool light. All right, so let's go ahead and select that one tree, and then you can go start gardening and have all the fun you want gardening. You can increase the size of your planting area right here, increase the number of trees in your planting area so we can create ourselves a nice looking forest, something like this, and increase the height variation, angle variation, and just, plant trees all along our peninsula right here. And you see that it conforms to the shape of the ground. So it, despite the height of our terrain, it'll plant them on the particular height it's going to conform to the terrain. You can see there, we're conforming the trees to the terrain. I can press escape, and if I want to, fell any of these trees, I can select Start Gardening and select Feller, and then we can, take away any of these trees, and we can plant them again. If only it were that easy in real life. So then for these trees, if you want to have, some cool wind settings on the trees, what you can do is just go to your plant wind settings, and I like to keep the strength, fairly, maybe 75% around this area right here. You can change the direction if you have time, and pump up the gust frequency right there. And let's just, give ourselves a nice sunlight, so we can see the gusts of wind flowing through the trees here. If I just zoom in, you can see now we have, these gusts of wind just flowing through the trees. Maybe the wind is a little bit strong in this case, in which case you can, turn down the gusts of wind and, fool around with this on your own time. But that's really about it for this tutorial. I wanted to show you just one more thing about the water as well. If I go to my scene tab and I just select my water, there's a number of different water parameters that you can modify here. Let's take a look at the water from maybe, say, this angle right here. Now, if we want to have a clear water, we can deselect underwater fog. And when we deselect underwater fog, you can see we can actually see the ground through the water here if you look closely. Reflection, we can take down that above surface strength to see even better. The underwater strength is not going to have much of an effect. The refraction, we can increase that above surface strength if we want clearer water right there. We can decrease that if we want to have, more refraction at the surface as opposed to down below. So it really depends on what kind of water you're looking for. There's also refraction blur, so we can blur everything that's appearing through the base there as well. But yeah, that's about it. So we didn't have much time to go into the details on the outdoor tutorial, guys. But let's go ahead and answer some Q&A now. So we have about 10-15 minutes for the questions and answers. I'm going to open up the questions section here. We're going to bring it out, and we are going to talk about some iClone questions. All right, so first question. We have a question from Will. It says, any plans for iClone to use PBR or physically based rendering? Yes, we will plan this in the future. This is not in our immediate production pipeline, but physically based rendering is something that we've always been looking into. We're going in the right direction with Indigo, not with Indigo, sorry, with Substance, and with Indigo as well. But that will require an overhaul of our system. So it's not in the immediate pipeline, but we are definitely considering it. No promises though. So the easiest, Robert asks, what's the easiest way to create a green screen scene? That's a good question. I can show you that really quickly, actually. What I like to do is just go to new project here. We don't need to save this. To create a green screen project, if any of you guys are interested, you can just press Control-Shift-P to go into your project settings, and in your 2D background, just select your background color and choose a nice vivid green color that's easy to connect, or easy to chroma key, and just close down your project window. And now basically, everything in your background is going to be, really easy to take out, and you have a nice green background. That's a little bit hard to look at. So I'll just open another project. Let's open up that finished scene creation. Actually, let's cancel this one. Open up this outdoor scene that we finished. All right, yeah, the green's a little hard to look at, but that's how you can, just press Control Shift and P, or go into your project settings down here, and then you can set your 2D background to green. So hopefully that answers your question. So Jimena asks, you can also use center scroll up or down to zoom in and out. Rather easier. Yeah, some people use the scroll button to zoom in and out as well. Like if we select Mason here, we scroll our mouse button up, we can zoom in, we can zoom out like this. This was the scene that I intended to create, by the way, guys. So we have this scene here. We can scroll in and out with our mouse button. Again, if you hold the Shift key and you scroll in and out, you can zoom in and out faster, like this. So holding Shift and scrolling your mouse button will allow you to zoom in and out even faster. Just a little tip as well, holding like Alt, Shift, and anything will make your zooming and movements faster. All right, so we have a question from, let's see, Jimena as well. What's the parameter values for UV mapping? This is a question from Jimena about UV mapping, tiling, and offset. This stuff is kind of hit and miss for me. It really depends on the prop that you're dealing with. However, this may be confusing to some users. There's two different ways to map things, rather to do UV mapping in your scene. So if I just go ahead and I, open up I'm trying to get this question window out of the way here. Open up a 3D block, let's bring in a 3D sphere here, and I apply a quick material to it. Like let's just apply this, I don't know, this wood one works. The wood ones are always fairly decent. So I click and drag this wood onto there. You can see we can, it's basically mapped to my sphere. If I go into my materials here, the mapping for tiling, I normally use for tiling, use the UV mapping section on the top here. So if you're tiling something, on a single face or something, just use the UV settings up here, tiling. However, if you want to map your UV map around some sort of weird object, you can go here, and if I select like spherical, for example, I apply that. I can apply it to the x-axis, I can apply it to the y-axis, or I can apply it to the z-axis. If I selected like cylindrical, for example, it wouldn't be much different from sphere. Box, you can see we have the grains going two different ways. One's going around here, one's going across the top here. So that's for mapping your UV settings to a certain object. However, if you already have it set and you just want to tile it, then use the ones up here. And you can also animate these as well. Here's a good tip for everyone. Any text in your modify panel that is green, any text that is green, you can animate this. So I can animate the strength. Say for example, I wanted to start off like this kind of sphere and gradually show that texture. I can just animate that like this. And now that texture is gradually appearing. That's because we have this green strength slider. So you can animate the UV tiling as well. Okay. So another question from Jimena is SGP models don't take substance materials very well. Yeah, that's SKP models from Google SketchUp or Google Warehouse, they tend to be a little bit inconsistent as far as their makeup. So sometimes substances will work. It really depends how they're put together. I've had a lot of ones that are really easy and ones that are a little bit more difficult. So we don't have a workaround or anything for that yet because there's just too many things to consider. So Zola asks, my video card is DX11, but I had to choose DX9 to get iClone 6 to open. This is more of a technical question. So your DX11, you have to switch back to DX9 for iClone 6 to open. I would recommend troubleshooting that with customer service. I don't have the technical know-how as far as DirectX 9 and DirectX 11 goes. There's a lot of programming stuff involved with that. So yeah, I would troubleshoot that with customer service. They'd be able to recommend, any sort of maybe a different video card or a different driver. Maybe even You may even be able to upgrade your driver instead of the video card. But that's beyond my scope of knowledge. I'm sorry for that. iClone 5 knowledge into, or iClone 5 content into iClone 6, very easy. iClone 5 content is all compatible with iClone 6. However, it's not backwards compatible. So you can click and drag any iClone 5 content into iClone 6. However, it's not backwards compatible. Sterling asks, does iClone use multiple GPUs? Multiple GPUs, again, that's kind of beyond the scope of my knowledge. It's a bit more technical. I'm more of the animator type of guy, scene creation and production and stuff like that. But multiple GPUs, I mean, it couldn't hurt. You can probably send me an email and I can ask our dev team about that. But I wouldn't doubt it at this point. Okay. So Alvin asks about the curve editor. Alvin, we actually just created a tutorial about the timeline and props. So I'd recommend checking our YouTube channel. We just created this tutorial called Timeline. It's iClone Basics, Timeline for Props. And we talk about the curve editor in that. So I'd recommend checking out that video. Just go into our YouTube channel, youtube.com/user/reallusion. Zola asks, can Heidi and Mason's facial features be altered inside iClone 6? No, Heidi and Mason were kind of just like temporary characters that we kind of pushed out for the launch of iClone 6 while we were completing our character creator, which has now been completed and will be launched, I believe next Monday is the 31st. So, and that'll be a free upgrade for everyone as well, every iClone user. So I'd recommend just checking that out, coming back on the weekend or on Monday, and you'll be able to see that character creator in all its amazing glory. You can see that there's also a preview video on our YouTube channel as well. So Fairs asks about an alpha channel. Yeah, we have alpha channels. I think maybe this is related to the question before about chroma keying. No? Okay. Well, we have alpha channels on your props. If you were looking for an alpha channel, it's the opacity channel over here on your prop. So if I select an opacity channel and I selected any sort of different opacity map, I don't have any right now. We can go to our materials over here, our images. Let's see, opacity. There we go. And that's not really doing much for our sphere. Oh, it's a substance, that's why. We need to take this and just go ahead and flatten the entire thing. Let's actually just take this and trash the entire material. There we go. Let's try a different opacity map here. There you go. Oops. We need to click and drag it to the proper map. There we go. Click and drag the opacity map image to the opacity channel over here, and there you get your nice opacity map. And it's one-sided right now. We can change that to two-sided. There we go. You get something like that. Cool, that's opacity maps, in case you were wondering. Okay, so can the entire scene be exported through 3D Exchange into Unity? Michael asks. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have the way to export the entire scene. What I sometimes do is I save everything. Like I showed you the sofa little situation before. You can attach everything to one prop, and then you can export it that way as a single prop. So that's currently the way that you can do it right now, and then you can detach that once you're in Unity or Unreal. But for the whole scene, for the lighting and everything, the lighting, unfortunately, we can't export at the moment. So yeah, that's that. Okay. Sterling asks, can you snap a moving edge when scaling to another object? The scaling doesn't work too well, but you can snap with movement mostly. You can't really snap with scaling, unfortunately, at this time. And Alvin asks, will perception neuron integration be a part of the new patch? Unfortunately, Alvin, the perception neuron, we've been working with them as partners for quite a while, since the Kickstarter phase. That will be a separate plugin for iClone 6. Now, this is not, we're not talking about Kinect quality motion capture here. We're talking about extremely high extremely accurate motion capture. Now, I just came back from SeaGraph, where they're advertising comparable motion capture solutions for $5,000 to $10,000. So I mean that's normally above the budget of a lot of independent studios. However, the motion capture neuron is now, I think they're now priced at around 1,500, and I think we're pricing it around, it'll be under 2,000 with the entire suit, all the hardware you need, all the plugins and everything. So it's going to be super accurate motion capture. If you're a more professional independent studio, it's well worth the investment because it's completely perfect, accurate motion capture. Very little modifications needed. Pamela asks, will you be having webinars on the animation of real people? That's a good question, Pamela. I think we can possibly fit in a couple webinars for animation, since I like to do character animation myself. We have a couple of good tutorials on our YouTube channel, recent tutorials that I would recommend checking out on animation. But yeah, that's something that's a very good suggestion. I think we can work on more animation related webinars in the future, since I enjoy doing the animation stuff more so. So Sterling asks, is there a list of every keyboard shortcut? Yeah, I think you go up to help, and if we go to our online manual, I haven't gone here for a long time, but help and online manual, there's a keyboard shortcuts table down here. So if you guys are looking for all the shortcuts, again, help, online manual, or just press F1 and then go into your keyboard shortcuts table down here. Global shortcuts, shortcuts and panels, timeline shortcuts, all that fun stuff. You can check it out on your own time. So that's where all the hotkeys are anyways. Okay, question here. Karen asks a good question about the new character creator. Will we be able to create wardrobes as well? Yes, the wardrobes will be a bit more complicated though. Just like we have clone cloths currently, every cloth, we're gonna have a number of different cloth bases. Now you'll be able to modify those cloth bases the traditional way in iClone, just by using your diffuse textures and normal maps and everything like that. However, with substance materials, you have a lot more creative options. And I might be able to give a quick example of that in a bit here. Let's just finish up the last couple of questions here. But yeah, we'll definitely work in all the customization needed for the character creator. At first, though, you'll be not really that limited. It'll still be pretty awesome. But yeah, we will have the tutorials out on probably next week, next Monday, Tuesday. And when you watch those tutorials, it'll be a lot clearer to you how you can manipulate your textures on your characters. So another question from Fairs. She has a lot of content from Daz and Renderosity. Is the clothing interchangeable between Daz figures and G6? No, unfortunately not. Different cloth bases, so the clothing will not be interchangeable with Daz and G6 characters. However, you can import your Daz figures with their clothing to iClone, and you can apply physics to that as well. We're also coming out with a bunch of new physics accessories like scarves and stuff like that, which are pretty cool. That'll be part of the character creator pack as well. Hugo asks, do you need an add-on to add voice to your characters? Nope. Adding voice to your characters is very simple process. You can literally do it in like 2 seconds here. If we just add a character into our scene, I know this might be old hat for some people, but we do have some trial users here. Select a character. I like to just press the J hotkey to focus on their face. Go to your motion tab, go to create a script, and maybe a wave file. I don't know what kind of wave files we have. Barbarian script. Okay, that's from Trenton the Terrible, but you can just go ahead and... That's how easy it is to create facial lip sync animation. You can also use your own voice, wave files, text-to-speech, or crazy talk scripts. Okay, Tim asks, Let's see. Yeah, we can't alter the facial features on Mason and Heidi right now, unfortunately. But you will be able to see the character creator characters. You can alter like basically anything in the character creator. I'm just going to try and go down here a little bit. We're running a little short on time. We probably got time for a couple more quick questions. I'll give you guys a little bit of a teaser for the character creator. How's that sound? Let's just go to our character creator here. Now this is the older character creator I'm going to run here. It's a bit more stable at this point, but and this isn't the final UI again, so I won't get into any more details on this. But if I have a character here, we have different morphs in our character. I can go to my avatar, and there's a number of different morph bases. Like we have like a fat male, for example. You can just click on that, and it'll load up this fat-looking dude, hopefully soon enough. There we go. This is our fat-based character. And then what you can do is you can, change all sorts of different shapes by clicking and dragging certain areas of your character. If you wanted to change them to something more athletic, we can choose, the regular male right here. And for the clothing, it's pretty simple to add on clothing to your character. You can also choose different, we can make this guy's shoulders a bit bigger. We can expand out his lats by clicking and dragging. Now there's also these sliders on the back, on the side here as well. I'm trying to get this stupid questions window out of the way. Different sliders for different parts of your body. There's a lot of detail you can get into here. You can make this guy look more fit, more like a bodybuilder right there. We can adjust his height, make him heavier like that, more or less muscular. I think he has the bodybuilder, already set. I can make him thin like this, voluptuous. We wouldn't want to do that for this character, but old as well. And so we get this, character looking old. And if you want to go into your materials on your character's body as well, you can just select our actor and activate our dynamic texture editor. And this is what I'm going to end off with here, guys. I'll just show you a quick look at, just the quick ways you can modify your character and add some clothing on here. So we activate this dynamic texture editor just to kind of save, save resources. We can go here to our body surface normals and increase the age. And you can see those are just the normals. That's not actually morphing the character's body, but we're just creating age wrinkles on the character's body there. Skinny as well, you can make him skinny like that. You can also give him more ripped muscles as well. I like to have the age one, a little bit of the skinny one there as well. So we get this kind of malnourished looking fellow right here. And if I want to go into his face, this guy's face looks pretty sad. We can select his body, skin on the head, select his skin. We can even add freckles onto his face. Oops, where are we here? Oh, I guess this guy doesn't have, there we go, cheek. There we go. So we can add a bunch of freckles onto his cheeks, onto his whole face if we want. The amount of freckles, the density. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do. Head surface normals. Here's where you can age your character's head. The cheeks, the nose. So, in a couple seconds, you can turn this guy into someone a lot older looking by increasing the strength. And there you go. And then we also have tans as well. Face tan. You can choose sunburn. So you can make his, sunburn pretty bad. And, lots of other fun stuff that you can modify. But those are just a couple examples of, how you can adjust your character in various ways. And with the character creator, and for clothing, just throw on some clothing. We have shirts, like this tank top, for example. And it doesn't really matter the size of your character. You can see right now his nipples are kind of popping through. If you have that kind of situation, conform and calculate collision, and they're gone. So if I wanted to change this guy now from, let's give him some shorts actually, so he looks halfway decent. And you can totally modify these cloth here as well, just like I did with the skin. You can do the same thing with the cloth. Let's give this guy a fat body shape, for example, a fat male right here. So the character with the same clothes, you just change the body shape. Normally you wouldn't want to do this, but you know, see the same clothing conforms to the different character. We have the same skin and everything. So that's just a couple of examples, like, you know, 2-minute demo of the character creator. We will have the full tutorials coming up at the next week, probably beginning of next week. Yeah, so I think that's about it. That's all the time we have for this webinar. We're kind of like 15 minutes over here. So if you guys have any questions, again, just email me, kai@reallusion.com. Also check out our forums. We have lots of cool people, friendly people that are willing to answer a lot of questions at forum.reallusion.com. They have a lot of extra time to, to search through the forums and answer all your questions. We have some very dedicated users. Yeah, make sure that you fill out the survey that we send out after this webinar for a 40% off upgrade to the full version. And again, email, you can also email me at developer@reallusion.com as well. That email goes to me and another guy as well. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you get a nice teaser of the character creator there. But yeah, looking forward to doing the next webinar and looking forward to talking to you guys. So that's about it.